Attention world! The long-debated prophecy of the Third Temple's construction is finally unfolding. But amidst the fervor, a revelation has surfaced, igniting fresh debate and speculation. Delve into the heart of this contentious issue, where ancient prophecy, religious fervency, and political tensions collide. From the historic significance of Solomon's temple to modern-day geopolitical complexities, uncover the layers of meaning behind this monumental undertaking. Join us as we unravel the mysteries surrounding the Third Temple's emergence, shaping the future of Jerusalem and sparking global discourse like never before. The reconstructed temple in Jerusalem that is referred to as the Third Temple is hypothetical. It was to be the replacement for both Solomon's temple and the Second Temple, the latter of which had been destroyed in the year 70 CE by the Romans, and the former during the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem in 587 BCE. The Third Temple is a revered concept in Judaism, especially in Orthodox Judaism, even though it has not yet been constructed. The most revered site of worship for Jews is expected to be this one. Hebrew scripture claims that prophetic voices among the Jewish people demanded that its fulfillment occur either before or simultaneously with the Messianic era. A crucial factor in some Christian eschatological readings is also the construction of the Third Temple. A recurring theme among devout Jews is the expectation of a grand project in the future that revolves around the construction of the Third Temple at the Temple Mount in the Old City of Jerusalem. This idea is also supported ideologically in Israel. The Dome of the Rock, which the Umayyad Caliphate erected atop the locations of Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple, has, nevertheless, caused Muslims to contest the idea of a Third Temple. Tensions between Jews and Muslims over the Temple Mount have translated politically into one of the main flashpoints of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the region has also been a topic of significant discussion in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. We're talking about a hot topic today that has been making news worldwide. The controversy and excitement surrounding the Third Temple's building on the Temple Mount have intensified to a breaking point. Jerusalem's Temple Mount, a revered location, has long been a source of conflict. There was formerly a Second Temple, but it was destroyed in 70 CE. This hallowed location, which is extremely significant to both Muslims and Jews, is currently occupied by the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Jordan is still in charge of the site's administration, even though Israel has ruled the area since 1967. Arabs and Israelis now have divergent ideologies and goals as a result of this arrangement. While some Jews saw the building of a Jewish temple as essential to their future, Arabs were vehemently against it. This is when things start to get interesting. For some, the Third Temple signifies different things. Some see it as a historical turning point that is a true architectural marvel. For others, it represents rebirth, hope, and spiritual restoration. But what does it say about the significance of the Third Temple, and where is it located exactly? Let's work together to solve the puzzles. Now get ready for the astounding information that has recently surfaced about the Third Temple. This development will increase the already heated emotions around this matter and lead to much more debate. Are you prepared to do this? Please start the drum roll. The purpose of the temple that God built in Jerusalem is intertwined with biblical history and prophecy. Since the destruction of the Second Temple in AD 70, Jerusalem has seen no sign of it. Many students of Bible consider rebuilding it in the future. The scripture's prediction of the end-time sacrifices cessation has led many to conclude that the temple's reconstruction is necessary for this prophecy to come to pass. Studying the background and significance of Jerusalem's previous two temples is essential to comprehending the Third Temple's significance. These buildings were signs of God's presence among His people and had great spiritual value. The temple's history is very important. It starts with the construction of the first fixed building dedicated to the worship of the God of the Bible. King David of Israel, who lived in an opulent palace with the Ark of God housed in a modest tent, declared his intention to construct a permanent home for God. During their desert wanderings, God had given the Israelites instructions to build a temporary tabernacle, but He did not order the construction of a permanent structure. God, however, permitted David and assured him of a long legacy. God promised that He would give David a long-lasting dynasty, and that his descendants would be the ones to build a house in God's honor. David's significance in history was cemented by this heavenly promise, which guaranteed the duration of his reign indefinitely. Although David did not live to see his ambition of building the temple realized, it did set the stage for God's plan to eventually come to pass. Building the temple of the Lord, one of David's sons, Solomon, realized God's prophecy. Built atop Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, this amazing building is commonly known as Solomon's Temple. When finished, it served as Israel's primary center for religious observance and stood as a sign of respect for about 400 years. An important place in history, Solomon's Temple represented the realization of divine promises. But its magnificence was short-lived, as the Babylonians destroyed it in 586 BCE, sealing its terrible fate. Situated atop Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, the Temple Mount is a vast 36-acre plateau that has held great historical significance. Its rich history begins with Abraham, who was told to bring a sacrifice here. On this hallowed site, King David afterward bought a threshing floor from Arnon. King David had prepared the site for the temple on Mount Moriah, and his son Solomon had started work on the first temple that bore his name. Following their imprisonment in Babylon, the Jews rebuilt the temple in Jerusalem, following God's prophecy given via Isaiah and King Cyrus's decree. After facing opposition and setbacks, the temple was eventually rebuilt in 515 BCE and dubbed the Temple of Babel. It stood for around 600 years until the Romans destroyed it in 70 AD. Though the historical temples continue to be the main focus, there is some intrigue about a potential third temple. Scholars and Christians alike find the pursuit of clarity intriguing, notwithstanding the biblical text's clues and figurative indications. It's possible that the Jews built a second temple in Jerusalem before Jesus Christ's second coming. This concept originates from the prophecies found in the book of Daniel concerning the abomination of desolation and the termination of sacrifices in the final days. 9 through 14 of Daniel's 8th chapter discusses a little horn that will put an end to daily offerings. Some see this little horn as a counterfeit religious leader who will side with the beastly ruling class. Furthermore, Daniel 12:11 mentions the elimination of the daily sacrifice. Some people believe that these pathways will lead to the building of a temple, where these sacrifices will once again be offered. Additionally, before his second coming, Jesus himself foretold of an abomination of desolation in the end times while he was in the holy place. Matthew 24:15. This might also be a reference to the altar on the Temple Mount, despite the belief held by others that it refers to a new temple. As was the situation before the Second Temple, it is conceivable that sacrifices may continue without the need to build a physical temple. A temple is described in Ezekiel chapter 40 verse 48, but it has been difficult to determine when this temple would be built. Some claim that it has to do with Christ's millennial reign, which is a period when he will rule on earth for a millennium. But since Christ's sacrifice was intended to be final, the notion of animal sacrifices being resumed throughout the millennial time begs doubts. Some contend that these Ezekiel chapters discuss the Second Temple's building or reconstruction during Herod's rule. These interpretations are called into question by differences in the size and design of the temple described in Ezekiel's version and actual temples. An alternative viewpoint is that the church is symbolically portrayed in these chapters. However, the details found in Ezekiel do not line up with historical fulfillment or contemporary observations. Consequently, a different perspective contends that these chapters anticipate a future fulfillment when a temple is built for Israel during the millennial reign of Christ. God's Spirit will permanently reside among Israel throughout this time, and they will no longer be divided. The New Testament makes multiple references to God's people as a spiritual temple, even if the historical physical temples were still significant. Paul discussed the symbolism when Herod and the real Temple of Babel were still standing. He highlighted that the bodies of believers are not their own, but rather the temple of the Holy Spirit. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 19. Paul said that believers are the living God's temple in 2 Corinthians 6:16. Paul also mentioned how the church members will develop into a holy temple in the eyes of the Lord. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 21. This spiritual temple is already under development, which emphasizes how important it is for people to be a part of God's home. Being a part of the spiritual temple is vital, even though there might have been a physical temple during the millennial era. Whether the Jewish people built a new physical temple before Jesus Christ's second coming is still up in the air. A new physical temple may be built, even if Paul said that the construction of a spiritual temple is still proceeding. The world community, however, rejects Israel's claim to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. There are restrictions on Jewish prayer in the region, and Muslim authorities constantly monitor the area and cause confrontations. Islamic officials openly deny the existence of a temple. Except for the area where it would be constructed, recent events have increased hopes and efforts to reconstruct the temple. Except for acquiring the actual site, all the necessary arrangements for the reconstruction of the third temple have been completed. The spiritual temple Paul speaks of is already being built, but the physical temple will remain for the millennium. It is unknown if the Jews will construct a new physical temple before the return of Jesus Christ. As we conclude this exploration into the enigmatic realm of the Third Temple, it's evident that its construction marks a pivotal moment in history, intertwining prophecy, faith, and geopolitics in unprecedented ways. Subscribe to our channel for more insightful updates and thought-provoking analysis.